Hey, folks, and welcome to Typology, the show on which we explore the mystery of the human personality and the human adventure all through the lens of the Enneagram. My name is Anthony Skinner, your producer and co-host. We've got a great guest for you today. I'm talking about someone whose work likely shaped your childhood or your kids in ways you didn't even realize. I'm talking about Mike Nawrocki. He is the co-creator of VeggieTales, the voice of Larry the Cucumber, and the offbeat genius behind those silly songs with Larry. Great work, by the way. As co-founder of Big Idea Entertainment, Mike spent decades helping families laugh, sing, and grow in biblical wisdom. And many of you are probably nodding your heads right now. But his journey didn't stop there. His most recent project, the Dead Sea Squirrels, is now a growing book series and animated show streaming on Minnow. Make sure you check that out. He's also assistant professor of film and animation at Lipscomb University, where my son just graduated from a couple years ago, and he's doing great in film and television right now, by the way. And he is also, speaking of Mike, the co-host for the Bible for Kids podcast. He's a self-identified Enneagram 9, and we sort of just break the ice today. It's a really cool conversation. We get under the hood for nines, what motivates them, and we asked some probing questions today, so I think you're really going to enjoy this conversation, and it ends on a really cool note for something that we might do in the future. So anyway, I know you're going to love this podcast. Glad you're here. That's it for me, Anthony Skinner. And now, without any further ado, here's the host of the show, Ian Cron.
Hey, Typology friends, welcome back. Today is a big day for us. We have in the house Enneagram 9, Mike Nawrocki. Nike. How am I doing?
Mike Nawrocki. Hey, that'll work. Just flip it around a little bit. Wait, let's make that a game the whole time. We'll just flip it around. You'll be a Kean iron.
Yeah, exactly.
Or can iron. Yeah, you can iron.
Yeah.
Can iron.
That'd be a great name for your wife to give you. Hey, he can iron.
That's hilarious.
Mike, welcome to the show. We have so many mutual friends that I can't believe this is the first time we're actually connecting.
I know. I've heard about you so many times for so long from our mutual friend, Steve Taylor. So it's a pleasure to finally meet you.
Wow. Great. Well, I'm excited about this show because you have just learned, in fact, we think, right? Because sometimes, I'm not sure which test you took, but sometimes they're not accurate, right?
Right.
We think you're an Enneagram 9. And so today might be kind of an education for you, a little bit about you.
Yeah, man. Yeah. You could just give me the real time test here to see if that's true. My daughter did it a few months ago, and she said, "Hey, Dad, take this," and I did it, and I ended up as a 9, one wing, and I'm sure I didn't do the whole battery of tests, but according to people I tell that, they say, "Okay, that checks out."
All right. Well, let me talk a little bit about nines. Right.
Okay. Yeah.
Now, I'm actually really familiar with nines. I'm married to a 9. My daughter is a 9, one of my kids. Mm-hmm. And they're known as the sweethearts of the Enneagram.
Okay.
So as you know, right, the Enneagram teaches there are 9 basic personality styles in the world. Mm-hmm. One of which we gravitate toward and adopt in childhood as a way to navigate the new world of relationships in which we find ourselves, right? And nines are known as the Peacemakers.
Yes, that's right. I've heard that.
Sometimes called the mediators.
Okay.
Yeah. And nines, all these 9 types, right? Each of them has an unconscious motivation, right? That powerfully influences how that type pretty predictably and habitually acts, thinks, and feels on a moment-to-moment basis, pretty much all the time. Mm-hmm. We think that the nuts and bolts of personality and character are pretty much in place by around the age of 5. It's wet cement at that point.
Right.
But, right, all the pieces are there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So things I'll describe about you on the show will probably have been true about you for a long, long time.
Cool. Nice.
Yeah, yeah. How would your parents have described you as a little kid?
Oh, wow. So I was very busy. I was always trying to make them laugh, I've heard. And I definitely feel like, that peacemaker was part of who I was as well. I kind of felt like most of the time I was in the middle of things trying to calm them down, unless it was with my youngest brother, Steve. He and I are a year and a half apart, and we were always getting into it. So, yeah, but yeah, I mean, as far as I can tell, that's, that's how I would perceive they perceived me.
Okay. Would they have said you were a high maintenance kid or a low maintenance kid?
Low maintenance. Yeah. Low maintenance.
Did you have a high maintenance sibling?
You know what? We were all pretty easy, I think. As I look, as easy as 4 boys in one household could be for a mom.
Wow.
So I know, right? Yeah. I have a brother, my older brother, he's my half brother. He's about 6.5 years older than me. My mom's first. And she was remarried, and I'm my dad's oldest. We were a military family, moved around every few years. So there was always a lot of extenuating circumstances in our family just because of all the mobility and the moving and that sort of thing. So my brothers and I tended to stick together because, we didn't have, our friends were always, changing over every 2 or 3 years. So we got to be really close growing up.
Wow. So the unconscious motivation of the 9 typically is they are very motivated by a need to maintain connection with other people, to preserve internal and external harmony or peace.
Yes. Yep. Absolutely.
Right.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
A 9 typical thing for a 9 dad to say at the table at Thanksgiving is, I just don't understand why people just can't get along.
Right. Exactly.
Right?
Why can't they? It's so easy.
And one feature of the 9 that's fairly common is that they are very conflict avoidant.
Right. Right. That's the dark side, I would imagine.
Well, it can be, yes, right?
Yeah.
Because as you know, when you try to preserve peace at all costs, the cost is higher than
yes,
what
absolutely.
you ever anticipate.
Yes,
right?
Absolutely. Yep.
Does this sound like you so far?
Oh, it totally does. It totally does. And I think I married a non-peacemaker, who loves conflict. And so that really,
interesting.
Yeah. So that helps to get it all out in the open.
Okay. Is your wife an 8?
I don't know. I'll have to ask her. I'm not sure. I'm not sure where she is. I'll need to check that out with her. But
that would be really, really interesting. So, I think with 9s, a couple of patterns that show up in the lives of 9s a lot. 9s tend to go along to get along people. Like, let's just not upset the apple cart. Let's just everybody, just, they're kind of always on the search for Hakuna Matata.
Okay. Yeah. I can see that.
Everything's
Absolutely.
good. Everything's good. If there was a musical genre that equated to different Enneagram types, you would definitely probably be, reggae or yacht rock.
Okay. I was thinking, Jimmy Buffett, totally.
Yes. Yacht rock. Like, exactly. Right. Just easygoing. Right.
Yeah.
Now, the beautiful thing about 9s is they have this ability to see the world through the eyes of everybody else. And they're able to see how things fit together. And they're able to listen to the viewpoints and the experiences and the opinions of different types of people. Yeah. And oftentimes they can bring, when they're healthy, because personalities are on a continuum of health to unhealth, right?
Right.
They're really good at mediating things, right? Getting people to the middle, right? And getting consensus. Consensus building is something 9s are really, really great at. Yeah. But what they're really not great at is anger.
Yeah. Yep.
So what's interesting about 9s, Mike, if you're a 9, right? Yeah. Is that for 9s, well, let me put it this way. 8s are called the challengers. And their anger is right out front. So that's why I asked if your wife was an 8.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It just comes straight out.
Yeah.
Boom. Right. And it's straight up and it's hot.
Yeah.
With ones, the anger, they're called the improvers, used to be called the perfectionists, right? The anger goes inward, back at themselves.
Yeah.
But for nines, they just go, who's angry?
Yeah. Who's angry? Well, and I have noticed that for me, I tend to go to sadness much more quickly than anger. So if there's an emotion there that's sort of waffling around, I just whoop right into sadness, I think, typically.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. So what has your historical relationship been like with anger?
Avoidance. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Just trying to, make the peace, typically not getting, very long fuse. But then again, just in my relationship with my wife, I've seen, it was really difficult for us early on because she needed to see, some sort of emotion from me that proved that I cared. And so a lot of times I would be holding that back until that fuse ran out and, I just, let off and it's like, oh, okay, there's a real person there. There's a real emotion there.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is huge. That is huge. Okay. So this is, I've been doing a lot of coaching with nines lately. So, I love
nice.
nines. I love nines. So what people want from nines is they want nines to show up.
Yep.
And to be an individuated, differentiated presence in the room who claims their own voice and authority and really sort of stands up and takes hold of their own life energy, right?
Right. Yeah.
Takes life by the horns. And sometimes with an 8 or a 4 married to a 9, for example, the frustration is, this is when a 9 isn't very healthy. So I'm not describing you, but probably at some point in your life, I am going to describe you, right? Which is that you tend to merge with the opinions, the viewpoints, the preferences of other people rather than stand up and name your own.
Right. And all in the name of keeping the peace, right? Or keeping
all in the name
stasis.
of keeping the peace, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And we think, this is the crazy thing about these strategies for trying to get by in life, right? We think to ourselves, oh, well, if I just don't upset the apple cart, and if I can just keep internal and external happiness and harmony around me, everyone will really appreciate that.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But in the end, everybody kind of eventually wakes up and goes, where are you?
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And that's what I feel like has been so healthy about, that part of my wife's personality in our relationship there, because she demands that, I'm there. So Yeah.
So you've spent a lot of your life actually creating sort of peace-loving, gentle, fun universes or worlds for people to visit. We were just talking about this new, obviously, VeggieTales, but also Dead Sea Squirrels, which I have seen. I saw the earliest cuts of the trailers. I saw the earliest cuts of stuff before, because obviously
awesome.
our mutual friend Steve showed it to me going back, I guess, a couple of years now.
We've been working on it
and
a while.
it's brilliant.
Oh, thank you.
It is brilliant. It is so wry. I mean, come on, the Dead Sea Squirrels. Please explain to everybody what it's about, because they're going to be clueless.
Oh, sure. Well, of course, it all starts with a bad pun, which is what I love. But the Dead Sea Squirrels, 2 squirrels, Merle and Pearl Squirrel, an old Jewish couple from Galilee, lived during the 1st century, take a river raft down the Jordan, a little ride down the Jordan to get some time at the Dead Sea, which Merle has always wanted to visit because you can't sink. They end up getting encased in sea salt, lost in a cave, completely salted up, preserved for 2 millennia, and found by a little boy named Michael, who is on an archaeological trip with his dad over the summer at the Dead Sea. Michael sneaks him back home with him in a backpack to Tennessee, sets him up on his windowsill so they don't stink up his room, and they rehydrate when it rains that night, desalinate, and come back to life. And so that's the basic premise. And they've got, important lessons and stories to share with Michael from their lives, their perch in those trees in Galilee in the 1st century when Jesus and the disciples lived. And so they're able to share that with Michael and his friends to help them through their everyday lives. So that's the basic premise of the show.
Anthony, you have got to see this show.
I can't wait.
It is so freaking clever.
Wow.
And fun and just a little, I love it when a show's just a little bit off true north. You know what I mean? It's like, oh boy,
there's
it's
a
just
little gink in there, like
yeah. That's when you know you're into something really juicy and wonderful, and it is really wonderful. And tell folks where they can see it right now.
Well, folks can see it on Minnow. It's streaming as an animation. The Minnow streaming service. They have a lot of great content for kids, but it's also available as books. So there's 12 book series out right now. That's how it started before we animated it, and that's available wherever books are sold. And Tyndale Publishing is my publisher. So
Right.
and we're actually we're working on a season 2 right now. Steve Taylor, who you mentioned, I've been collaborating with him on this for the animated series, and that has been a dream come true because I've been a huge Steve Taylor fan my whole life, and getting to write songs. There's a lot of music in the series as well, so getting to write songs with Steve has been a dream come true. So I loved it.
Yeah, Steve is a prize. We've had him on the show a couple of times. He's an Enneagram 7. That's a whole other conversation.
All right,
and we can definitely get into that at some point down the road. Hopefully, as our new friendship blossoms, I can
absolutely.
We can sit around and just decode Steve. That's what we can do. No problem. So it's just so interesting. I oftentimes tell people that nines in Nashville, some of the best songwriters I know and actually novelists I know are nines.
Interesting.
Part of the reason for it is, I think, one, they have that ability to see the world through so many different eyes. So the creation of characters and telling stories.
Yeah.
And making sense of the world, but also their ability to create worlds, in part because I think sometimes what nines want is at their heart, they really want to inhabit the kinds of worlds that they create.
Interesting. Yeah. Right. Yeah. This is this happy, fluffy world that I've created.
Yeah. Tell me about what it was like growing up. You said you were in a military family. You're the product of a second marriage.
That's right. Yep.
3 brothers.
Or 4, 3 brothers.
Are you all similar in personality styles, or are you really different?
We're fairly different. I share probably the most similarity with my youngest brother. So a lot of people tell us all the time we're very, very much alike, even sound alike. My brother Steve and I, so it goes, Bob is my oldest, then me, then Steve, then Mark. So Steve and I are, have the most friction, not anymore, but growing up. So yeah, we were just very different. And then my older brother, Bob, he was old enough, and my half brother, he kind of was a little bit more of a, father figure than he was a brother, if that makes sense, because he was so much older than me. And then my dad passed a few years ago. My dad was a wonderful man. He came to know the Lord when I was in middle school, but before that point was just very regimented, very military. He was an officer in the Air Force, and just very career and work driven. And so, I ended up, again, my dad was working most of the time, and I just spent a lot of time with my brothers. And so, but my older brother, Bob, in particular, probably, he kind of was a little more perched for me, just, kind of above brother status, almost up to parent status for me. So,
was your dad an intimidating presence?
At times, yeah, at times, just because he was military, very disciplinary, and it's like if dad was not, if we knew dad was not happy, coming home from work, then that, kind of, set the fear of the Lord in us. But he was never physically abusive, but just, very, very strict, with how we wanted things strict. And then my mom was the opposite. My mom, so my dad, engineer, officer in the Air Force. My mom was a nurse, and just very, very loving, very, just open and vulnerable. And so she's an artist. So, painter, musician. And so my dad was very left brain. My mom was very right brain. So it was interesting, just in their pairing. But yeah. And, growing up though, I always knew that I was loved, that, and cared for. there was that was never a question for me. But yeah, we did have that kind of that strict regiment growing up. Again, until my dad turned into a new person when he came to know the Lord when I was in middle school. So it was in the mid 70s. He moved away to live with he got transferred. We were living in Denver. He got transferred to the Pentagon. We weren't able to sell our house in Denver, and so he moved in with his commanding officer and was living with him for like 6 months. And when we finally sold our house and joined our dad in Northern Virginia at our new house, we had a brand new dad. He had completely changed. He was just, his heart was completely softened, and he just was a new creation, literally. So and just and it wasn't long after that till the whole family became believers as well. We all just kind of followed in his footsteps there, just having witnessed that in him. So, that's sort of a little bit about my story. But yeah, we moved around, every 3 years. I was born in Ohio. We moved to Tokyo, was there for 4 years, Southern California for 4 more years, Denver, Washington, D.C., then back to Denver, which is where I went to high school. So that's kind of where
did you go to high school in Denver? I'm just curious.
I went to, I lived in Aurora, Colorado, and I went to a high school called Gateway High School, if you're familiar with that.
Okay. All right. Well, we just came back from a month in Boulder.
Oh,
and
wonderful.
my wife is from Denver.
Oh, nice.
But,
okay.
She's kind of like one of those privileged, she went to Kent Denver school. So she was
one
of those.
Yeah.
One of those kids. Anyway.
Can I ask a question before you move on?
Yeah.
I just want to know, what was it like to make that move to DC and for him to be completely changed? I mean, was that like discombobulating for you at all? I mean, did it create any kind of tension or like, wow, he's different? What does that mean?
Yeah. I was a kid, so there was always change happening, just because of all the moves that we made. But I just remember, a softness that I had never seen in him before, and a willingness for, family and relationship. And hey, and just realizing, wow, my dad really cares about me and wants to get to know me. And so, and so we started going to a different church and with a really dynamic youth program and all that. And that, it just really changed a lot for us. But, I just, and in fact, I was watching TV with my dad. We were watching a Billy Graham crusade on TV, when I made a decision for the Lord. But just, the change that I had seen in him and kind of growing closer to him through that process, softened my heart as well.
So the reason for the change was pretty clear.
The reason for for his change?
Yeah. Or you understood it at that time? Like, it wasn't like, there's a change, but I don't know why. Was it clear what had happened to him? Yeah,
it was clear what had happened. Yeah, he was very upfront with how, and I was old enough to kind of understand.
Good, yeah.
So it was, it was very clear.
This show is sponsored by BetterHelp.
When it comes to mental health and wellness, I have been down the online rabbit hole more times than I can count. One day it's cold plunges, and the next it's gratitude journals or screen detoxes. And sometimes I just sit there and wonder to myself, okay, but what actually works for me? That's the thing you need to keep in mind about this age of information. We have endless advice, but not always the wisdom to know what fits for our story. That's why talking with a therapist has been so meaningful in my own journey. Therapy helps you cut through the noise. It gives you personalized guidance, helps you set boundaries, goals, and equips you with practical tools to become the best version of yourself. That's exactly what I love about BetterHelp. With over 30,000 licensed therapists, they're the world's largest online therapy platform, serving more than 5 million people. And it works. The app has a 4.9 out of 5 rating from over 1.7 million reviews. Plus, it's easy. You can join a session with the click of a button, fit it into your life, and switch therapists anytime to find the right fit. As the largest online therapy provider in the world, BetterHelp can connect you with mental health professionals who understand your story. Talk it out with BetterHelp. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at BetterHelp.com/typologypodcast. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/typologypodcast. That's a beautiful story.
It is.
So nines, like I told you, I've been some coaching with some nines lately. And one of the guys describes his inner world as being a kind of inner fog when it comes to knowing what his own desires and preferences are in life. You know what I mean? Like, it's just hard for him to like say, what do I really want? What do I really need? Do you relate to that inner fog?
I do. I really feel like, I going back to, even high school and kind of in terms of what I want vocationally, I felt like, after I came to the Lord, I felt like I was in high school called to ministry, just because of the kind of the, denomination I was in and, I was just what I had surrounded myself with, but I didn't really know what that would look like. And, I didn't want to be had no desire to be a pastor, but, I kind of went away thinking, okay, well, I've got a dad who's an engineer. My mom's a nurse. Maybe I'm supposed to be a doctor. So, that's kind of how I started my path. I loved, I was kind of a theater kid. I loved, drama. I loved singing. I never really felt like, okay, there wasn't really a model for me to do that vocationally or ministry wise. So it wasn't even anything that I considered. So
you could have had a puppet ministry.
I could have had a puppet ministry. Yeah. Well, in fact, Phil Vischer and I met doing puppets. That's how we met. So yeah,
so good.
Exactly. It's so good. But, just getting back to, so it was sort of the external forces of the church and my new relationship with God, and just saying, okay, this is kind of what people do when, they're in my situation. They pursue ministry of some sort, so maybe that wasn't, I didn't have a very clear sense of, okay, exactly what that's going to look like, but I felt like, okay, that's kind of what I need to do. So, so that's really interesting. Yeah, it's really interesting. You should say that because, I remember, after having finished my pre-med, that sort of that fog of, okay, is this what I'm supposed to do? What is it that I'm really supposed to do with my life? But, and also really, what is it that I really want to do with my life? And, I can relate to that fog.
And was there a moment when you realized this is what I want? Has there been a moment?
I did have to make that decision because, I mentioned I finished my undergrad and I was still looking at med school. I applied with the Peace Corps and
of course you did.
Of course I did. Exactly. Right. Yeah. I can make a peace out there. Yeah. Of course I did.
That's funny.
And but Phil and I had met, doing puppets in college, and, we were both in the video post-production. And as I was going through my undergrad, I went to University of Illinois in Chicago and, working in video post through my undergrad. And that's when we cooked up the idea for VeggieTales. And, so we had, it hadn't been named VeggieTales yet, but we had done this little promo with computer animation, using vegetables. And Phil was out trying to raise money for this promo that we did. Well, I got my acceptance letter from Peace Corps the same month that we found out that we got funding for our very first episode of VeggieTales. And so for me, I had to make that decision. Okay, this is what I want, because these two very different roads were in front of me. And I had to choose one or the other. There was no kind of, waffling through it. And so, that's when I made that choice of, okay, I'm going to turn down the Peace Corps and do this. And, making that call to my parents of, oh, remember when I was going to be a doctor, I'm going to animate vegetables telling Bible stories now.
Well, what's so interesting. See, now some nines, a different take on that story, right, is sometimes they get easily just pulled into another person's energy and excitement about something. And
right.
they just merge with that energy.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's as though they're just rolling. So I don't know Phil at all, right?
Yeah.
There could be a scenario in which somebody with a stronger, bigger personality
Yep.
has this great idea.
Yeah.
And then you just find yourself riding along with it. Now, I don't know if that's how this all
it totally did, because I definitely felt like that. And for me, it was safe for a long time because, I was able to do both. I was in school, I was pursuing this one thing, but I was riding along over here because it was fun and I loved it. And I felt like this is where I was, operating within my giftings and all that. But it wasn't until that moment of, okay, either you ship off to Africa and you do what you thought you were going to do, or you stay here and do this. But Phil does have that type of personality. And I definitely felt pulled into that orbit with him to do that.
Yeah. And so as you've gotten older, have you found in yourself your own energy and drive where it's like, I don't need a Phil or somebody else. You know what I mean? Like who comes to, I have all this juice within myself that I can claim and own and run with.
Yeah. Well, in fact, that was a big part of Squirrels, for me, is starting that, with the Dead Sea Squirrels, and it's like, and I had people throughout my career really encouraging me to do that. It's like to step out, to kind of own that own thing. And I had always been either too busy or too reluctant, or maybe a little bit of both to do that. But, I finally was at a place where it's like, okay, I've got to do something else now. And so being able to do that and claim that, I think was really freeing for me. It was intimidating because, I had always worked with a core group. And I'm finding myself back in that because I love working with a core group. But those early steps of, stepping out on my own and starting that was, was a new thing for me. But also very, very freeing in a lot of ways. And yes, yeah, that's so interesting.
Yeah, that's a 9 journey right there, right? Mm-hmm. So when we talk in psychology about narcissism, right, there are certain types of people, myself, and I'll use Steve as an example, right? So here's if you think about, everybody is somewhere on the narcissistic continuum.
Yeah.
Right? And there's a mean at the 50-yard line, right?
Yeah.
And what's the analogy I want to use here? Okay, here's the analogy. I once saw this, the documentary 20 Feet to Stardom?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, about is it Gladys Knight and the Pips, or who's the?
Well, no, it's about background singers.
Background in general, yeah.
In general, right?
When I think of background singers, I just think of Pips.
Well, of course you should, because
that's right.
They wrote the song with the most amazing Midnight Train to Georgia is the ultimate background singer song.
Totally is.
That and every James Taylor song that was ever written. I remember watching Sting on it, right? They were interviewing Sting. Mm-hmm. And he said, all the background singers have much better voices than most of the people they sing for.
Interesting. Yeah.
He said, what they don't usually have is that belief that their presence, this is Enneagram language, matters enough to take center stage.
Interesting. Yes. Interesting.
He said, they're better than we are.
Yeah.
But they don't have that, they're not elevated. So my wife's a 9, she's been on a really great journey of learning and discovery and, over the years. But I used to say to her, you would say I would say I'm elevated on the narcissism spectrum. I'm not a narcissist per se, but elevated, because I believe people would read a book that I wrote.
Sure. Yeah.
So you have to have like a little bit of moxie and self-belief, delusion, whatever you want to call it, to say, I got something to say, and I think a lot of people should read it.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's what helps create things, right?
Right.
9s often aren't narcissistic enough.
Yeah.
So I say they score low on the narcissism scale, because, and they end up sometimes as the background singers when they could be singing lead.
Interesting. Yeah.
They're in the band and they're great at it.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think that's fascinating, because what's so fascinating about my journey, and maybe so unique, is, I'm the voice of Larry the Cucumber, right?
Yes.
And so Larry ended up being probably the the standout character of VeggieTales. And so, and it wasn't, me that wanted that. It's not like, okay, I wanted to be lead singer. Just sort of Larry kind of occupied that space in VeggieTales, but it wasn't something I ever sought after, in a way. And so, but what is so interesting is, as an animated character, it's like an abstraction from me. And there's a lot of times when I felt like, I tell people I'm generally an introvert, except for when I'm Larry, because then I can, just go all extrovert, for that character. So it's just really interesting, because what Larry ended up doing, kind of out front of, VeggieTales, is something that I was always held back from, in my life. And it's so interesting that Larry would end up there, and I'd be fine not being that. So it's almost like I'm totally fine not having the attention, so it's not something that I seek or chase after. But I think if I were to have, gone on tour, I would have probably been fine being a background singer. So wouldn't have had an issue with that. But it's just fascinating then, kind of when you throw animation into it, kind of how it all worked out.
Yeah. You're actually naming something I had been thinking about, right? Like, I think part of the growth path for Nines is this decision to take the mic. You know what I mean? Like, and say, this is my voice. Yeah. And this is why I am here.
Right.
And to begin to let their, what I mean by life energy, right? Like, just being plugged in to their own mission and their own life and their own viewpoints and preferences and opinions and desires. Like, a lot of times, so I was telling a group, an earlier guest, I should say, about something that happened in a business meeting a couple of weeks ago. And I was with a guy that I don't know very well, but he's clearly a 9. And you could feel that they had just dialed down desire. It was like the energy level was very low, right? Like, you get around Steve and there's a lot of, like you can feel the caffeination.
Exactly.
Right? That 7 kind of bubble, right? Bubbly, kind of constantly going, moving, and striving, right?
Yeah.
Striving.
Yep.
And 9 sometimes dial that down.
Yeah.
In a way that I don't think is in a way that doesn't serve them.
Right. Yeah.
Because it's like, dude, turn it up. Like, what you have is amazing. Turn it up. And the 9 is almost, as you use the word, reluctant.
Yeah.
And so I'm wondering, like, have you ever stopped to think about, is there a part of you that is reluctant to take sometimes life by the reins in a way that you wish you would?
Oh boy. Yeah. I start to think more about, the place that takes me more is to more career and what I've done with my art. And part of it is that I feel like, I've had such a great amount of success in kind of the places that I've been, that I'm like, okay, I feel good about that. I feel good about the work that I've done and how it's reached people. Is there a need to take more of the reins there, or is the space that I've been occupying, in line with my gifts and my personality and where I should be? So there's that. But as you were saying that, it made me think about at least 6 or 7 people in my life who have told me that several times. It's like, you've got this in you. I know you can do it. And really now, that I've launched Squirrels, they've kind of affirmed that. It's like, see, I told you, you can do that sort of thing. So I guess maybe as I'm processing this out loud, there's been no lack of success, I would say, from how I have operated before. And some of that just has to do with the animation component and, kind of that abstraction from me. But I've always had people pushing me to say, hey, I think, you can step out and do more on your own. I don't know if that makes sense.
As you know, I believe the Enneagram is one of the most powerful tools for developing self-awareness. But to gain the benefits, you need to know your type. Taking an Enneagram assessment is the first step toward understanding yourself and the people around you. It offers insights that can enhance your self-awareness, personal growth, emotional intelligence, your relationships. It's not just a one-time test. It's a lifelong tool that will help you navigate life with more clarity, purpose, and empathy. And now, when you take my brand new Typology Institute Enneagram assessment, you'll receive a research-backed, scientifically evidenced, comprehensive report that's easy to understand. Not only will you learn your dominant Enneagram type, but you'll gain insight into aspects of the Enneagram most other assessments don't cover, such as your dominant wing, your subtype, orientation to time, and even stances. Get your results today at typologyinstitute.com/assessment. Enter the discount code Typology Podcast on the checkout page to get 10% off your assessment. Again, that's typologyinstitute.com/assessment and enter Typology Podcast for 10% off. I want to go back to the topic of anger because anger is a really important thing. Anger is not, sometimes people think of anger as an aggressive emotion that is very oriented toward conflict, but sometimes it's just energy that stands up for itself, right?
Sure.
In some ways, it's our anger. It's like your wife, for example. I don't know if she's an 8 or not, right? But sometimes that eight's with anger, it's like, well, let me put it this way: 8s, 9s, and 1s, those three numbers, all have issues around anger.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And people and 9s go, "What are you talking about?" Like I don't. And because what they tend to do is fall asleep to their anger.
Sure. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then they tend to numb it out.
Right.
And they find different ways to numb. Right. Like, and they, a lot of times there's a certain subset of 9s that are often, they'll eat a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Or exercise a lot, or romance novels a lot, or just to kind of check out. It's like and their attention becomes diffuse, not focused. Right. It's like and which can be a blessing on one level, especially if you want to be a contemplative mystic in the Christian tradition. On the other hand, right, getting stuff done, right. It's not always the best thing, right? Yeah. So if I were to say to your wife, what does Mike need to work on right now at this stage in his life to grow into the best expression of himself? What do you think she'd say?
Wow, that's so great. I know particularly the conversations that we would have when our kids were growing up is just that idea of presence, just being there. And being, not just being bodily there, but being present in the moment, with the family. And some of that was just because my mind was always running a million miles an hour all the time with everything going on with work and, the next show that needed to come out and, all the business stuff that was going on. But yeah, just that presence would be probably that's the first thing that comes to mind. On the topic of anger, I mentioned before just that the ability to be transparent, in my emotions, more than I am, because I do definitely hold that back. And she's Hispanic too, and so that kind of, that's I think culturally more transparent for her too. It's like, I know how she feels. There's no, hiding it. She feels great. I know it. If she doesn't, I know it. There's no hiding it. So I think that greater transparency and greater presence would be the two things that I would say.
Yeah, it's so interesting. So there's this is right out of the Enneagram literature. Okay. Yeah. Straight out of the literature of countless authors over the decades, right?
Yeah.
That the message implicitly or explicitly that 9s internalize as little people is that your presence doesn't matter.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Wow.
Right. So what?
Yeah. You're giving me chills, man. Yeah.
Well, but that, and so, so part of, and I think this is, when I talk about the spiritual journey a lot, and this may sound Eastern, but it's not, it's actually quite, it's right straight out of the literature of Thomas Merton and others, right? Like the journey is toward awakening, right? It's toward waking up to the brimming presence of God in you and in all things. Right?
Yeah, right.
And recognizing that your presence really matters.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like,
your
presence really matters. And so in the family, your being with us and actually being here now matters. And when you are here, who you are leaves a great impression. Because I think sometimes nines think, I'm a good guy, but I don't think I leave a big impression wherever I go. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But you do.
Yeah. Oh,
But you do.
Cool. Yeah, that's so interesting. Wow. Look at you getting in my brain like this.
Well, it's fun because you've just learned about your type. And so I'm not going to have some long conversation with you, right, about this 10-year journey you've been on working on being a 9, right? Maybe I'm just highlighting things that are things to consider, right? Because the thing the Enneagram gives us, right, is it's a very low definition picture of what goes on in different types of people's lives. And there are these 9 subsets in the population, and they all tend to have issues around similar themes, right?
Sure.
And of course, it's everybody's unique. Yes. But these themes continually arise in these 9 different pools of people. Yeah. And I love watching 9s on a growth journey, like my wife. God bless her. We've been married almost 40 years, and she's an amazing human being. But was in her 50s when she kind of really woke up and went, wait a minute, my presence really does matter. Yeah. And what woke her up actually was a crisis with one of our kids, right? We had a kid. We talk about this openly in our family and publicly. We all do. We had a kid with a substance use disorder in college, and the therapist said to my wife when we put this child into alcohol and drug treatment, they said, listen, if you want to help your kid get well, you have to focus on you. Yeah. And you have to focus on your own personal growth. Yeah. And when that equation was set out to her, like, oh, wait a minute, I've got to start to show up because my presence is going to really matter now.
Because it matters. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I have to do and this is the virtue that is, so for each Enneagram type, there's a deadly sin that tends to correlate with them.
Right.
And for 9s, it's sloth. Mm-hmm. And the sloth isn't physical laziness, right? Because you could be terribly busy, right? You've been a very busy person for years, right?
Right.
It's more a kind of failure, a laziness about investing in their own personal development.
That's so interesting. Well, because there's a lot of the different personality things that are out there. One of them is the strength finders.
Yes.
My number one attribute in strength finders is achiever, so it kind of goes against that sloth, but I think you're right. It's like you can be that way in terms of, outward goals and career and trying to achieve, but then there's that slothfulness of yourself.
Yeah. There's a kind of, but you're really good at supporting it in other people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
And being a cheerleader for other people's, like my wife would cheer me on, go to seminary, go to graduate school, get a psychology degrey, go get a doctorate, go do, which I never finished. But I got 2 years. I got the coursework done. Anyway.
Exactly.
On and on and on. Like it's 9s are really good at supporting and encouraging other people realizing their own potential, but not investing enough in realizing their own.
Well, two is positivity for me on that other one. So it's so interesting. Yeah. Cause that's so true. Absolutely.
Yeah. You can tell, so Anthony, you've picked up on it, right? So Mike, when you've been around the Enneagram a long time, you can be with people and there are just, that people radiate energy. Right? Mm-hmm. Some people radiate positivity. Yeah. Right? Some people radiate chaos and hecticness. Some people radiate, we just pick up on it, right?
Sure.
And you radiate just a delightful, kind of gentle, approachable, accessible, kind, easygoing. You are someone that I pick up just probably has to turn friends down because there are too many people who just enjoy being with you.
Oh, well, thank you, man. I appreciate that.
I think that's true. Anthony, are you picking that up? It's very 9 energy.
Oh, 100%. I mean, like, just easy to be with. So easy to be with.
And that's that beautiful 9 energy. And when it's healthy, right, it's able to be a peacemaker. Like, I actually think that 9s on the Enneagram, this is going to get me some emails, but whatever, is in some ways more spiritually advantaged than other numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Because they, first of all, have a very natural draw. You like the outdoors, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
that's a big 9 thing.
Yeah.
9s love the outdoors. And partly because of the sense of harmony and connectedness to all things. There's a kind of mystical kind of experience outdoors, right?
Yeah.
It's like the sense of God in everything, and I'm connected with everything.
Yes.
And 9s just, my wife goes, like I said, we were in Boulder for the past month.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I couldn't go on another hike. I just, she's dragging me up mountains, she's just out there just like, this is where I belong in the peace of the world, But that 9 thing is, that journey toward taking right action on their own behalf and showing up for the people they love fully, and not being afraid of conflict.
Yeah.
Seeing conflict as something positive, not something that's that out of which very creative and juicy things can happen.
Yeah.
So beautiful. All right, talk us about. I want to just switch gears. Talk about Lipscomb and what you're doing there. I want people to know about that program because I'm a big fan. I've spoken at it. I've spoken in classes there. I've had a ball doing it. Tell folks.
Yeah, so I am a professor there. I teach in both the film and animation departments there, various things. I'm not an animator, but I teach screenwriting for animation. I teach voiceover acting, a class called Career Creativity. Steve Taylor and I teach that class together, which is a ball. But I love the program. We've got a great arts program there, very collaborative. This is going to be my 7th year there teaching full time, starting up this year. And just has been fantastic. We have a thing called Imagine House, which is sort of our outward facing production arm of the college. And Imagine House is what Dead Sea Squirrels is produced out of. So we are involving students, animation students, acting students, film students in the production itself. They're getting paid. They're getting IMDb credit while they're in college, working on a professional production, and just getting really great experience. Movie that just came out that Steve produced called Sketch had a lot of students on it. That's also an Imagine House project. Russ Taff just did a new thing that's out of Imagine House. So there's just and Steve heads that up, but it's just a really wonderful collaborative environment, a lot of great things happening. And I'm just super excited to be a part of it.
All right, everybody, please go check out Dead Sea Squirrels. I beg of you. It is so charming and so delightful. I remember seeing the trailer and just laughing my head off. It is just genius. And yes, Sketch was just premiered last night in Los Angeles. Steve is out there right now. We'll have Steve back on to talk about the movie. I actually went to the set and for a day and
nice.
I got to watch actually one of the outdoor, fight scenes.
Okay, I was wondering. I got to go on bus crash day. Was that the same day you were there?
No,
or was that a different day? Okay,
I was there on a different day, and I managed to get the worst case of chiggers known to man out by that pond. Out by the pond.
Oh yeah. You were at that pond. Oh yeah.
Yeah, okay, I was at the pond.
Oh my goodness.
And of course, Tony Hale is in that film of fame from Veep and from. Arrested Development, one of my favorite shows of all time.
Yes, absolutely.
And of course, Anthony, you have a son that graduated from the Lipscomb program, just finished up work on a movie recently. So you have a lot of good things to say about it.
Oh, he's crushing it. He did Scarpetta with Jamie Lee Curtis and Nicole Kidman. I think there was another Oscar winner there. And then he just did I Can Only Imagine 2. And now he's working on Nashville 911. He's the key PA and just
nice!
crushing
I hadn't
it.
heard that. That's great. No, Justice is a great kid. I really enjoyed him. He was a light in the program. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Well, Mike, here's my assignment if you choose to accept it.
Okay, very good.
I want you to get a copy of The Road Back to You. It's a book I wrote about the Enneagram.
Okay, yep, we'll do.
And just read the chapter on nines.
Okay, yep. All right.
And then I want to have you back on the show.
Okay, absolutely. I'm going to write this down. Road Back to You.
And in fact, if you just give me your address afterwards, I'll actually send you a copy. But, and I just love to have you back on. And what would be really fun is if your wife took an Enneagram assessment.
Yes,
cool.
yes. Yeah, I'll do that. I'll have her do that as well. Yeah.
And then we could have a really good conversation around nines and whatever her type is. She could be, it sounds like a counterphobic 6 or an 8 or maybe a 1-to-1-4. I don't know.
Yeah. When you say 6, it sort of like vaguely resonates, but we'll have to figure that out specifically. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be really fun. But that, of course, only if you choose to do it. It would be really, because
Oh my goodness, I'd love to.
we could actually put side by side moments from this conversation and that one, and it would just be really interesting.
All right, let's do it.
Anyway, thanks for being on, man. Anthony, I love doing this with you, man. This been doing this a long time, and it's amazing we're still here for it.
It is. And I was going to say Mike Nawrocki and Can Iron. It's been good to be with you both.
Can Iron, Mike Nawrocki and Can Iron.
We have a mutual friend, Mike. Do you know Andy Gullahorn?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So Andy, who's a 9, by the way, and also an amazing songwriter.
Yeah. Yeah.
He likes to call me Iron Crow.
Does he really? I never knew that.
Yeah, he calls me Iron Crow. Because you know why? All right. Because for a long time, Andy had a bowling league.
Yeah.
Literally like 50 guys would show up, and they'd all be session players and musicians and writers and authors and stuff. People who didn't have day jobs, essentially. Yeah. And when you got there, Andy assigned you a name.
I forgot about that. Yeah. I did remember.
So you couldn't use your own name. So on the screen above the lane,
love that.
He assigned you. So when you walk in, he go, "Oh, you're Iron Crow." And then that was it. From then on in,
that was you. Okay, I love it.
It's like being dubbed by the king.
Oh my goodness, I would love to hear my name on that one.
Oh man, I'll ask Andy for you. Everybody,
all right.
Thanks for being on, everybody. We love having this show and being able to bring you amazing people like Mike, and also for just exploring the interior terrain of our lives and trying to bring it into some kind of alignment with what God is up to in the world. So, you know how this closes. May you have love, may you have joy, may you have peace, may you have healing, may you have rest. Until next time.